Maps are the most important thing in Fire Emblem, or at least they should be. Hey, I'm off track West, and I want to get this out of the way first. I'm not a Fire Emblem elitist or whatever that might mean. I'm actually more close to an average fan. Well, actually that's not true, considering I'm attempting to make 26 more videos of Fire Emblem in a row after this. In this video, I know I'm going to be touching touchy subjects when it comes to Fire Emblem, so just bear with me. You'd be surprised at how much of a talkie and both an elitist I could be, because I have things from both sides that I like about the series. But if you do find what I'm saying interesting or thought-provoking or just dumb, please let me know, because I made these videos with the hopes of having conversations about this series with other people in mind. This is all just my opinion, of course, and yes, the title is purposely snide. Maps in Fire Emblem are everything. They're the world building, the storytelling, the character arcs we experience as the player. The maps are quite literally the world we're interacting with. And I think that's great. All the way from Fire Emblem 1, these square grids have been able to tell fun and interesting stories about lords, knights, heroes, and dragons. Now the reason I say maps are the most important aspect of the game at the core of the series, even over characters to me, is because I think Fire Emblem is at its best when maps are consistently able to tell its story through its gameplay and achieve perfect ludonarrative harmony. So, here's the topics I'm attempting to cover. What are maps? Just kidding, I'm not gonna do that. Let's be serious here. Maps are square grids and code that creates what you see here on screen. There's the places where you can go on a map and can't go. The enemy units and the allied units, the main objective, the side objective, the scenario, and so on. The context and the story it's happening and the music also play an important role in just making a map be able to feel like it's telling a story. And an important distinction I want to make in this video is that maps aren't just places where gameplay is happening. Maps are how the gameplay is happening. When you're engaging with the gameplay of a map, you're really either choosing the options or going down a set path the map has already laid for you. Some maps are very intrinsically designed to have you play them in a specific way. Both of the Drugstore games do a very good job in having maps like these. Specifically, the contrast in both Chapter 5 and 6 of Genealogy in terms of implementing the tone and the themes of the game are just like a chef's kiss. Meanwhile, the first 7 chapters of Thracia are also amazing at pulling the player along through an experience that can only be described as a desperate struggle because of the units it gives to the player and the circumstances it puts him through and the different challenges it asks you to undergo. Good storytelling when it comes with maps is when the game isn't overly relying on the story outside the chapter the map takes place in to inform you what's going on. Obviously you need to do both in order to tell a story, but it's to Genealogy's benefit that it utilizes its map so heavily to tell its story. Nowadays we get several cutscenes, which are fine, but in the Drugstore games, there's so many times where the things that would be cutscenes are happening on the map right in front of us, right with us, just as we're playing it. Now, this isn't to say that old good and new bad. I put more hours into Three Houses than I'll probably ever put into Genealogy, because Three Houses is a lot of fun, even if it could get really annoying and very unfun at times. I'd say I feel the same way the other way around too. I think Genealogy is a masterpiece because of how it uses its story and gameplay together to create such a fun experience. But with how tedious it could be, it's sometimes hard to replay. For a modern example of a map that's good at being both the center of the stage and pulling its player into its story and gameplay, I'd say it's Chapter 12 of Three Houses, both with and against Edelgard, for the shock of the reveal that she's the Flame Emperor and fighting to either siege or defend the place you once called home against the people you've come to know so well. It's a very good bookend to the first half of the game. The reason I personally think Fire Emblem is at its best when it prioritizes maps over characters is that more immersive maps will make everything else better. It puts the player in the situation of the characters in terms of emotional stakes and in position where the situation is tense. More Fog of War maps, for example, would actually be great. Not bait, but great. I used to hate them for a while, and I would say it's like playing chess blind, but I realized that's blatantly wrong and untrue. Fog of War maps work well when you first make do with the limited information you're given and have to adapt on the fly when encountering the unexpected. It's closer to playing D&D than blind chess, and I wouldn't even say Fire Emblem is like chess. It's a poor argument. This also isn't to say that I think harder maps are simply better, because that's not the case at all, at least for me. I'd rather play an easier map that ties its story and gameplay together in a compelling way than a map that's hard, but is ultimately just a setting where the chapter takes place. A hard map isn't good to me if there's difficult enemies with padded stats. It's about how a map is hard that can make it immersive. How a map is using the enemy units and how the map is using the resource it gives you and the things it pits against you. Initially, this was going to be a video on Noble Lady of Kaelin, a map where Eliwood and Hector finally meet Lyn, and you get to have the new units you recruited fought alongside the characters you'd previously used in Lyn mode, with their levels being carried over, which the player who encounters that map for the first time is going to be a moment that sticks with them, along with having Florina be reintroduced with you and the rest of the characters being able to handle the several units that you're facing. The map carries a feeling of triumph and homecoming, and the song Companions ties it together perfectly. Conversely, every time I play Fire Emblem 7, I look forward to Battle Before Dawn. Maybe it's just a bit more than Noble Lady of Kaelin. It's a brutal map under fog of war, with limited time, where you have to recruit and babysit Nino and lead a fragile girl to Jafar, who can easily get killed by Ursula's bolting. All the while, you have to save Zephiel, the main villain of the previous game. This is a map that was made to frustrate the players to no end, yet it feels like an appropriate amount of pressure for that point in the game, right around the end game. And I can say that every time I beat it, I celebrate overcoming that wall because of all the difficult things the map does, holds you into that situation. We feel like Nino at the end, somehow coming out alive of a desperate situation. Even though they both couldn't be any more different, they both do a really good job at immersing the player through the usage of their map. Maps are just a bedrock of Fire Emblem to me. Sure, there are ways Fire Emblem can have good gameplay and story integration outside of the map with different management systems, like playing as a professor in 3 houses is diegetic in some regards, but at the end of the day, you need the immersive map designs behind those management systems. The maps are the gameplay. It's where our favorite characters can come to life or die. It's the story we're telling with the game. Maps are everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This is supposed to be quite different than it is, but I'm happy with it. Please discuss, fuss, get mad or sad, think I'm done and call me out. A good discussion is at heart why I came up with these videos. See you soon, hopefully tomorrow.